Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video. If you saw my video the other day, then you'll know that Capcom released some new Monster Hunter World gameplay, this time in English, and more importantly, HD 1080p. And in that video, we dove a little deeper into the base camp to take a look at the armor skills, and a few other related topics. If you missed that, then I will link it down below. However, following that, I then went through the remainder of the gameplay with a fine-tooth comb and picked out a few other things that I wanted to speak about. Things that you might have missed. If you follow me on Twitter, then you may have already seen some of those as I was sharing them in GIF format. And if you don't already follow me on Twitter, then I tweet about a whole manner of gaming-related things with a healthy dose of Monster Hunter. So hit me up on there if you want to stay up to date. However, speaking about the here and the now, today's video is going to focus on 8 things you might have missed from the most recent gameplay video. If you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below if there's anything else you noticed that I perhaps didn't mention. Now, to begin with, let's kick things off at number 1, the Slinger. The Slinger is the new arm-mounted cannon, or crossbow for want of a better description. It's something that every hunter has, and it's separate to your weapon. It has a whole manner of different functions, from allowing you to grapple onto certain parts of the environment, or the monster if you're thrown off during a mount, to firing little seeds or pellets to disrupt the environmental traps, and in some situations shoot out little fiery seeds to deal damage to nearby enemies. The stuff you fire is gathered from the environment around you. You can hold 10 red pit seeds. These are the more functional ones used to shoot at rocks, other traps, distract the monster, or shoot at it. Meanwhile, the scatter nuts, you can hold 3 of these, and they seem to fire out in a little cluster. However, that much you should already know. What you might have missed, however, is that the Slinger actually changes based on the armor you have equipped. See, this right here is the Slinger that comes as part of the basic armor set that we've seen in pretty much all the gameplay thus far. But when we have the full Anjanath gear thrown on, it changes to this. The first one has a more sort of metal and bone structure to it, meanwhile the second is more organic. The horn at the front with the sort of fin-like membrane that is present on Anjanath's wings. And this is something I'm personally super happy about. I mean, if we're going to have this thing on our hunter 24/7, then it would be pretty annoying if, say, late game we got this kick-ass armor set, but still have this basic looking Slinger on our arm. But now, knowing this, it actually makes things super exciting. Now every single time you complete a new hunt against a new monster, you have 3 things to look forward to. Number 1, what do the weapons look like? Number 2, what does the armor for this monster look like? And number 3, what does the Slinger look like? So that is going to be pretty sweet. Think of, say, the typical Rathalos armor set, for example. Imagine for a second what the Slinger for that could look like. Or what about the Great Jagras? The possibilities. Also interesting to think about whether or not it's tied to, say, having the complete armor set, or more likely tied to specifically the gauntlets, because of course if that's the case, then when you start mixing armor sets, you're also going to have some rather interesting combinations. People might start picking a particular set of gauntlets based on skills as well as the way the Slinger looks. Anyway, moving on from there to number 2, the Palico tank. Now again, for those of you that are new to Monster Hunter, Palicos are the cat companions that accompany you on hunts. Typically you can have 2 by your side, although at the moment we've just seen 1. And these come with you when you're not hunting with other players. They have their own weapons and armor, and also a wide range of abilities. Of course I can't speak for World since we don't really know what they can do just yet, but based on previous Monster Hunter games, Palicos have been able to set traps, plant bombs, throw boomerangs, fire mini acorn-like rockets, and even get in their own mini Palico tanks and blast acorns at the monster. And during this fight with Anjanath, you can see a small blue Palico tank. Now I'm calling it a tank since that's what we're used to, but in truth it doesn't appear to have a barrel, so I'm unsure at this stage whether it is a tank or perhaps more a Palico battering ram. Maybe the shielded front allows it to ram into the monster and, say, deal impact damage, or perhaps the tank barrel comes out when it's ready to fire. We didn't really get to see it in great detail here because it wasn't long before it was hit by the monster and then interrupted, so for now that is going to remain a bit of a mystery. However, simply seeing it is at least confirmation that we will still have some pretty wacky abilities that we can assign to our feline friends. Moving on from there to number 3, the charged aerial greatsword attack. I've already said in previous videos that hunter arts and hunting styles are not coming back in Monster Hunter World. They're something that'll remain in generations, however that doesn't mean to say there aren't elements of that gameplay that can carry over. In the top right hand corner, we have some of the button prompts telling us what moves we can do. And thanks to this, when jumping off the ledge, you can see you are able to perform a charge attack. Again, for those of you new to the series, the greatsword charge is literally the foundation of how the weapon is used. It's slow, but it's powerful, and while you won't see a great deal of charges happening in this gameplay, it is an integral part of the way the greatsword is used. knowing that we can charge whilst jumping off a ledge is almost like a tiny nod to aerial style, without actually of course bringing it forward. Furthermore, knowing that we can grapple onto parts of the environment or little bugs caught in the vines and then launch attacks from there, well, that in itself is perfect aerial charge attack territory. Grapple up, leap off, charge and slam to do some pretty nasty damage, maybe even cut a tail off. Also, I just want to take this moment to speak very quickly about the UI. A lot of you guys in the comments have said how cluttered it looks, especially with the new tutorial UI telling you what to press. Again, at this stage, we don't know what degree of customization we have, but based on previous Monster Hunter games, I will say that UI has always been pretty customizable. The ability to turn off the map, move the map, at least on the 3DS, move teammates, health bars to the bottom screen, and ultimately turn off the UI altogether. If you guys used to tune into, say, my Monster Hunter Generation streams, you'll know that typically I play this game with no HUD. Sure, it's risky since you can't always see your health or your stamina or, your weapon sharpness, but it also makes it more cinematic, and that for sure is how I will be playing Monster Hunter World. I mean, this early B-roll footage, for example, has no UI, and that's most likely not just a special developer camera, that is probably just the game with no HUD. So yeah, rest assured, if you can turn off damage numbers, which has already been confirmed, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to toggle all of the on-screen stuff that you don't like. Moving on from there to number 4, this one still relates to the Greatsword, but it seems like we're going to be able to cancel out of a charge attack. Again, I've already done a bit of a weapon breakdown based on the footage we got from the Japanese livestream, showed off as many of the new moves as possible, so if you haven't seen that, I will link it down below. But something new I haven't seen was this. It seems, at least based on this gameplay clip here, that you can go from the new shoulder charge move directly into a charge attack. We of course know you can already link the shoulder charge into a variety of different move opportunities, and in this case he goes into what appears to be the sort of lower strong charge animation, but then decides it's not the right time, so then goes into cancel it. And if that is the case, then this will make it a lot easier to play in a more risky manner. Get in, charge up, but if it doesn't look like it's going to work, step out. Or at least that's how I'd like to think it'll go. You're probably still going to get tail swiped or hip checked, but hey, I can dream, right? Moving on from there to number 5, a new monster was sighted. Only briefly, this wasn't a huge monster like Rathalos, Great Jagras or Anjanath. Instead, this was a smaller monster, a Kestodon. See this little shiny head bald looking dinosaur there? This is another one of the smaller monsters that roam the map. The question is whether there is a larger version of this too. More often than not, in Monster Hunter, these types of monsters have both smaller and larger versions, the Great version. Just like these are the Jagras, and this is the Great Jagras, it'll be cool to see whether we get to fight a Great Kestodon, or whether this will just be a herbivore that roams the map, similar to that of the Aptonoth that got eaten at the start. Next up in at number 6, this actually ties back into what I said about the UI earlier, but something else you might not have noticed is that your health and stamina bars actually collapse when you are out of combat. At the top of the screen here you can see they are simply small diamonds, but when you get into a fight they expand so you can monitor your health. I personally really like this because again I'm all for keeping the screen as clean as possible, so knowing that the health bar that dominates a large portion of the top of the screen can collapse and expand means that at least when you're exploring you can take a little bit more in based on what's around you. Jumping over from there to number 7, the different bug types. In yesterday's video, I already spoke about the Vigor Wasp, or the Great Vigor Wasp, should I say. These are bugs scattered around the map that act like mega potions. You can interact with them, pop their bellies, and use them to get a quick heal on the go. Someone in yesterday's comments actually pointed out that it appears to explode into a wide AoE field, so it'll be interesting to see whether this is something that the whole team can benefit from if they group up, or whether it is just the person that interacts with it. On top of that, we of course have a really nice demonstration of the flash fly in action. You need to be careful with these because when you interact they are like a ticking time bomb, so you need to time it right, but if you do it correct then it will act like a flash bomb and temporarily stun or blind the monster. These ones here are called hook bugs. These glow in the vines and they are of course the indication as to where you can and cannot grapple. The grapple can only be used in select situations, so you won't be climbing on absolutely everything, but it's still going to be pretty useful. I mean, you can see these bugs all over the place. And of course, while not actually a bug, we again have the little flash frog from before, or the shock frog, I'm not entirely sure the name for this one just yet. This is the one you kick that acts like a shock trap. So with just these alone, we already have environmental heals, flash bombs, grapple points, and shock traps. And who's to say there aren't going to be more in other maps in the future? I mean, in previous Monster Hunter games, we've been able to visit hot and cold maps that require corresponding drinks to keep cool or warm. Maybe they'll introduce, say, an environmental cool bug that you can then interact with if, say, you're in like a desert or a volcano kind of environment and you then forget to bring your drink. Maybe you can then interact with it, it'll cool you down for a bit, and then you can, carry on about your business. But anyway, that's a bit of speculation. So finally, in at number 8, this one is pretty damn epic, and that is mounted tail cuts. Now again, to give you some clarity, in Monster Hunter games in the past, when you mount a monster, you typically inflict mounting damage. The focus here is on knocking the monster down, and then when it's down, you go out to dealing actual damage. However, now it seems to be a more unified system. You can see physical damage numbers as you attack it whilst on its back, but also, as we've seen, you are no longer tied to one fixed location when mounting either. You can and will need to move around the monster to stay on. And of course, when the opportunity presents itself, you'll also be able to use your main weapon. What's crazy here though, is that the hunter jumps onto the tail and lands a charge attack, cutting off the tail in the process. Obviously, to cut any monster apart, you need to weaken it first, which is what the player was doing throughout the hunt, but at this point, being able to cut the tail is so flipping awesome. Now, a strategy often used by players in the past to farm specific monster parts was essentially to do what was known as tail farming or tail cut farming. You begin a hunt, you cut the tail, you carve the tail, and if you don't get the part you want, you restart that hunt. It used to be a good method for farming rare items like plates or other similar things like that. And again, for those of you new to the series, the reason you cut monster parts is because it gives you an extra carve. Typically, you get 3 carves when you defeat a monster, unless it's like a big elder dragon, then you can sometimes get 6. But if you can then cut a tail off or a part off, then it often gives you 1 extra carve. So this could become the new tail farming strat. Just mount the monster, attack the tail, cut it, carve it, rinse and repeat. But that, my friends, is pretty much it for the time being. Those are a few more subtle things that you might have missed when first watching the gameplay. If you did enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Also, if you want somewhere else to talk about Monster Hunter, or other games for that matter, then feel free to join my Discord. I'm pretty active there, plus we have an awesome community, so if you're looking to chat or play games with people, then you can find the link down below. Thank you very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.